Billy the Kid's life cannot be understood as a simple story of crime. It was a collision between a vulnerable teenager and a frontier system that treated violence as policy. The American West of the late 19th century was not lawless, it was selectively lawful. Power determined guilt, wealth determined justice. Billy the Kid was crushed between those forces long before he ever fired a gun. Born Henry McCarty in 1859, Billy spent his childhood moving from place to place as his mother searched for work and medical relief. There was no stable education, no extended family, and no consistent authority. By the time he reached adolescence, he had learned an essential frontier lesson. Adults could not be trusted to protect him. When his mother died, Billy entered what was effectively social exile. He was too young to claim land, too poor to command respect, and too alone to resist exploitation. Menial labor paid almost nothing. Theft filled the gap. His early arrests were not treated as correctable behavior, but as proof of criminal identity. Jail was not rehabilitation, it was humiliation and violence. Killing of Frank Cahill in 1877 was not glamorous. Cahill was a laborer who regularly beat and humiliated Billy. When the confrontation escalated, Billy fired once. Cahill died days later. This was Billy's first exposure to a truth that would define his life. Killing removed threats permanently, while mercy invited retaliation. Billy fled, knowing that courts would not weigh context. Self-defense meant little without status or witnesses willing to testify. From this moment forward, Billy understood that survival meant never being captured. The Lincoln County War was not spontaneous chaos. It was systemic corruption exploding into gunfire. Business factions controlled law enforcement appointments. Deputies doubled as enforcers. Arrest warrants were weapons. When John Tunstall was murdered, the law failed openly. Billy joined the regulators because legality briefly aligned with vengeance. But legality collapsed almost immediately. The killing of Sheriff William Brady was a turning point not just for Billy, but for the territory. Brady was ambushed, shot repeatedly, and left dying in the street. This act destroyed any remaining illusion that the conflict would resolve through courts. Other killings followed. George Heineman, killed during a pursuit. Buck Morton and Frank Baker, executed after capture under disputed circumstances. Each death hardened Billy's role. He was no longer a participant. He was an asset, a reliable gun. Contrary to myth, Billy did not wander aimlessly. His life was structured around rotating safe houses, cross-border movement, rapid liquidation of stolen cattle, language and cultural camouflage. He avoided sleeping in the same place twice. He rarely stayed in towns overnight. He used intermediaries to sell livestock. He relied heavily on Hispanic communities where distrust of Anglo power structures was common. Billy's violence was calculated. He did not seek duels. He favored surprise. Most shootings occurred at close range, often with witnesses describing minimal conversation beforehand. This efficiency was not bravado. It was fear refined into habit. As Billy's reputation grew, so did the incentives for his death. Sheriffs wanted fame. Deputies wanted reward money. Politicians wanted closure. Capture alive became secondary. The promise of a pardon from Governor Lew Wallace represented Billy's last attempt at legitimacy. When it evaporated, something shifted permanently. Billy stopped negotiating with authority. From then on, he treated lawmen as hostile combatants, not legal figures. Pat Garrett's capture of Billy in 1880 was not a triumph of justice, but of attrition. Billy's support network had been dismantled. Informants were coerced. Shelter became dangerous. Exhaustion replaced evasion. The trial that followed was deeply compromised. Jurors were politically aligned. Witnesses were intimidated. The outcome was assumed before testimony began. The death sentence was symbolic, a declaration that the territory had reclaimed control. Billy's escape from the Lincoln County Jail was not impulsive, it was methodical. Killing James Bell removed immediate restraint. Killing Bob Olinger eliminated pursuit. Billy understood that this act erased any remaining path to mercy. From that moment on, Billy was already dead, just not yet buried. After the escape, Billy exhibited signs of psychological deterioration. He trusted no one. He ate quickly. He slept lightly. He abandoned old allies. His crimes diminished not from reform, but from isolation. He knew he would be betrayed. He just didn't know when. Billy's death at Fort Sumner lacked spectacle. The shot was quick. The room was dark. Whether Garrett announced himself or fired immediately remains disputed. What mattered was finality. Billy died without trial, speech, or acknowledgement. His body was buried hastily, and then the myths began. Within weeks, stories exaggerated his kill count. Within years, dime novels fictionalized his personality. Over decades, men claimed to be Billy, exploiting weak records and public fascination. The real damage was cultural. Billy's story became entertainment. The systems that produced him faded into the background. The frontier was sanitized. Violence was romanticized. Billy the Kid was not a hero. He was not a monster. He was a consequence. He represents what happens when children are abandoned. Justice is transactional. Violence becomes administrative. Survival requires brutality. Billy the Kid did not fail the frontier. The frontier failed him and then sold his story.